So now, right, we've returned after the time skip. We're 2 chapters in to the whole War of the Spade Kingdom. And I know we haven't seen yet the extent of other characters and how stronger they've gotten from training. But I want to look at Asta specifically. And there's a good reason for that, with I think still being able to justify, the overall claim of if Asta is in fact captain level now. And I don't mean like, oh, he can go toe to toe with Yami or Fuego Leon or Nozel. No, I think there is a threshold to be at level with a captain. And obviously that threshold really starts at Rill because he's the youngest and easily the weakest of the captains. But with that, let's look at a couple things. Again, the captains are still growing. Again, this is where it's kind of like, oh, well, maybe the goalpost for captains got pushed. Maybe at their power level where they are, but still where that threshold starts. Like, he doesn't have to be at level with, again, Yami or whatever. He just has to kind of break through into that position. Now, again, we have to keep that in mind because the captains are still, like, as they are individually, still growing. We know, okay, Yami, like, got stronger in the Water Temple arc. He ended up getting Dimension Slash. Fuego Leon ended up getting Salamander during the Alpha Resurrection arc. But that doesn't change the whole aspect we're looking at now. Because the interesting thing about Asta is Asta's swords are beyond the captains. Because, they belong to Licht, so their level should at least be up to, somewhere around Licht's strength of like a wizard King, Magic Emperor, whichever you prefer. Again, I prefer Magic Emperor. Position as they are, but Asta is not. But they're tools. He doesn't hold on. It's like, well, I'm 10 times stronger now. It's like, no, you can utilize their capabilities, but they're only going to be as useful to you, the user, as much as what you're able to perform in. And Asta, we already knew his weakness from back in his whole fight with Vito, where Vito was just like, oh yeah, you're weak to one. You're for one weak to long range attacks. Especially anything that isn't magic. He's weak to anybody who's like straight physically stronger or faster than him. Those were aspects of it's like, yeah, if those come into play, then they're really gonna hurt Asta. And we saw like when Marileona ended up going against it was pretty much just blitz through Asta when he had his anti-magic form when he was training on how to use it, trying to figure out how to hone this power up that he had learned about during the Witch's Forest arc. It's like, oh yeah, Marileona, straight physically more powerful. She's a close quarters combat fighter, so even though she's not got that range buff, she's able just to get into his territory, and if you outdo what his specialty is, then you're gonna knock him around. And then Asta got his black form, which was a pretty significant boost. It gives him like a huge speed, mobility, physical strength enhancement. And it's like, yeah, he has that, but he has to charge it. He had to get in that stance and really just kind of like, boost himself into it. He had to like circulate the anti-magic through his body in order to put it on. But now he's gotten past the whole ranged, at least to a degree of range, as well as that whole charge wait time, because during this whole battle, like we've seen like these last 2 chapters of him flexing on people, not only does he have like a better grasp on his swords, like he's able to use them like a lot more fluidly, a lot more like quick interchangeably to whichever one is going to be the best one. Like, he got poisoned by that member of the Spade Kingdom. Just whips out, he whips out the Demon Restorer sword, hits himself with it, and dispels the effect that poison had on him. And on top of that, he's got better key sensing. He just saw some guys, above him in the ceiling. He's like, he's jumped through the ceiling to deal with that. But when he uses his Black Slash, that is something that is now going to help him with ranged, because ranged was something that really hurt Asta in a fight. He was a swordsman. He only had really up to the length of whatever sword he was using, or, really that, because it's like you can't count, like, he, gets in close, jumps at him when he's in his black form. It's like, well, no, that's just speed. Somebody who's, like, capable and a long-range fighter can probably keep distance with him, but now Asta's got, the slashes in order to really elongate his level of effective range. There's still a little bit, it's not the same as like, it's like, someone who can just snipe them. They're slashes, they're narrow, And you can either put them tall or wide, but at the same time, they're still going to be pretty thin. You should be able to dodge them. I think it's that element of surprise that really seems to be, the danger of something with him. Or just, if a character is unaware of, I guess that's still element of surprise. Anyway, but the big thing is when he was fighting against that guy, the whole dude who seemed to have some form of demon augmentation for Megicula, Asta doesn't have to get out his swords and, get in that stance. He seems to have developed a new stance. He seems to have been able to get it. And it reminds me of like Luffy. Luffy, when he would go into second gear, he got in that stance and pressed down on his leg in order to pretty much turn it to a pump, using that pressure to make his blood go faster. And then after the time skip, he can still do that stance, but he's got a much faster one. He just kind of cocked his arm out, and then, his arm, pumped by itself. He didn't need to get that stance and press down on his leg, which I definitely like that stance. It's actually kind of funny. I like the stances, both for the pre-time skip versions for both of them, just because I thought that was a cool stance for both of them. But Asta doesn't need that anymore. He just grabs both swords. He grabs he puts the two swords in next to him, and then he's just pretty much grabbing hold on them and absorbing the anti-magic into his body. So I imagine it's going at a much faster rate. He's not relying on the one sword. He's got double swords, and possibly maybe even the demon slaying sword that's in front of him. Maybe he's got a range to it, then he could just absorb. And he's got Black Divider, and whereas the Black Slash is, probably like a couple, probably like a good dozen feet or so, Black Divider just cleave this entire fortress in half. Which, just looking at it, you could easily go, I don't know, 100 to maybe 200, 250 feet across. It's pretty nicely sized, and he just cleaved right through it. It's a nice step for Asta, because for him, that charge time for his form and just range were very limiting to him. I imagine he's in that captain level now. And the reason that it could easily be done, it's not like, earlier in the series, just look at the Elf arc, as we saw back in, well, what about the Royal Magic Knight exams? You had Langris, who was a vice captain for the Golden Dawn, and Asta, with the form, was stronger than him because, anti-magic, speed, and whatnot over him, but only in the form. In a straight fight where it was just Asta and Langris, Langris would have, spatially cut him in half. But he had help from somebody else. He had help from Zora, giving him time in order to do that. And so it was Asta, no black form, weaker at that time. Asta black form, stronger. But he needed that time to really charge up. Whereas that was a good thing of he's not entirely that strong yet because he has that whole charge he needed, but now he doesn't, so he's easily surpassed that for one. But I think it's easily able to have we'll put him in captain territory, just make the captain stronger, but also we know that there's more tiers above than just captain. You have the kind of between Magic Emperor and captain Marileona, Aesir Silver, or Silva, not Silver. You have straight Magic Emperor level people, Licht, Julius, Lumir, and then you have devils. You had the Word Devil, the Word Devil. You got Megicula, and we don't even know what's beyond them. We don't know what exactly is beyond their extent. So I think it's a really good spot for Asta to kind of he's low captain level right now, and I still assume that this is gonna be a saga. Because, when you really think about everything up to the Elf Resurrection arc was really tied to the Elf Resurrection arc. It was it was just a bunch of pieces to the puzzle, and then it all really wrapped up there, and now we're in the Spade Kingdom War. So I'm willing to bet that it's going to be a saga. It's going to be multiple arcs that really kind of interconnect and then end off with a big arc, 50 to 60 chapters, kind of like the Elf Resurrection arc, and they'd be when they get fully into the Spade Kingdom's capital and, Megicula's on the loose. But other than that, comment below, tell me what you think is, happening about this. Asta's level of combat skill right now is enhanced key sensing, and the fact that it looks like Black Divider's range is just thick as hell. That, well, I guess not thick, wide, still elongated as hell, is in a spot that his spot will, I'm fumbling on trying to describe it right now, but his whole position in all this has really increased greatly, because we know the swords are beyond what us and the captains are, but it's really just how Asta utilizes them and what he's able to perform as that really like will determine whether or not he's at that level. Like if he can actually fully hone the power of the anti-magic abilities and the anti-magic devil and just really keep upping his game, thinking of new anti-spells and new ways to harness his abilities, he's gonna achieve that Magic Emperor spot. Would he then be the magic or the anti-magic emperor instead of the magic emperor? And same thing, even if you went Wizard King, anti-Wizard King, he's got that sick anti spot. I don't know. But anyway, comment below. Tell me what you think about this and how you think Asta's position is. I'd really appreciate a thumbs up the video, on the like button, subscribe button, and check out my other videos. For that, I appreciate everyone who's already subscribed, and I thank you all for listening. Bye.